So I made a video about why the minimum wage should be increased, but it was really oversimplified, and I did that because I wanted to give a short video for people to watch. I didn't want to overburden people's attention span. But I think it was a mistake only making a 3-minute video on why the minimum wage should be increased when there's so many arguments on the issue. So I wanted to take a closer look. So I would like to point out that there is inflation. The minimum wage was created in the 60s, if adjusted for inflation, the current minimum wage, one of the minimum wages was created in the 60s. If adjusted for inflation, the current minimum wage would be $12.50. I also would like to point out that the minimum wage jobs are not just for teens. Raising it would affect 15 million American workers, 4.7 million working moms, 2.6 million working dads. The minimum wage has been raised 23 times. None of these times did unemployment rise. Even small businesses want to raise the minimum wage. 3 out of 5 want to raise it to $10 per hour. So people need around $8 an hour to live. Minimum. Very frugally. But you start running into problems when you vary from state to state, and there's no way you can live off of $7.25. But this varies depending on how many family members are in your household. Combining $8 made by 2 people is not enough to support them both. So 29 states and Washington, D.C. have adopted a higher state minimum wage than the federal one. Plenty of cities have also done this, such as Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Nebraska, and South Dakota. So again, inflation will inevitably occur, making the minimum wage less valuable, but it is not the minimum wage causing this. The inflation will happen whether the minimum wage is raised or not. The minimum wage was raised to 75 cents during the Truman administration, but that money was more valuable back then than the $7.25 an hour that people make now is. So I would like to look at some arguments made against the minimum wage. So here's the first one. In companies with a fixed compensation budget, an increase to the minimum wage would result in layoffs or slower hirings. Again, studies show that raising the minimum wage has never caused unemployment. The same thing can apply to the second argument, that employers might hire fewer employees in entry-level jobs needed to begin a career. Doing this is just not worth it, just in order to save some money. The amount of labor that you would lose would outweigh this. An increase to the minimum wage would provide an incentive for employers to invest in automated processes, technology, and machinery to increase productivity rather than human resources. So in other words, they're saying that, in other words, they're saying, in other words, they're saying that workers would be replaced by machines. So yeah, if this is the case, so be it. Good. I mean, replacing some manual process or replacing some basic jobs with machines does cause unemployment, but That's the way of the future, and inventing new technology is not something that should be stifled. Anyways, meanwhile, while that's not happening, the workers should be paid enough to live. Minimum wage being raised may cause there to be no more minimum wage jobs because they invent like robots to do them all, but making the minimum wage not livable is not the solution. So, it raises the incentive for companies to outsource labor to countries where minimum wage rates are lower. So yeah, they already do this a lot because foreign workers are just cheaper to use. They already are cheaper. This is not like it's not like that this is a worthy course of action to save $7 per worker. A higher minimum wage could result in an increase of high school dropout rate. Wrong. People would pursue higher education to make better wages, even if the minimum wage was livable, just so they could make a better wage and have a better career. So prices might be increased to offset higher labor costs. For grocery stores, most of those would make their money back because people would be paying for stuff in order to live, and you have customers who come from a minimum wage job and those who don't, both of which are paying the amount that grocery stores have to increase their minimum wage to. So basically that they're making money from both, so whatever price increase they have would be lowered. Places that would be affected would mostly be Taco Bells and Burger Kings, where a burger or a taco might cost something like 50 cents more, but if that's the price that we need for people to have a basic, decent standard of living, so be it. So for small companies, already stressed owner-operators might take on more responsibility. If a company is so shitty that they can't pay their workers to live, something is inherently wrong with that company. And further proof is that small businesses want their minimum wage increased. And they probably already pay more than the minimum wage because the minimum wage is just so shitty and they don't want their workers having to depend on welfare, which when minimum wage workers don't make enough money to live, that they have to get welfare, and that puts a burden on the taxpayer. So if anything, people making livable wages so that taxpayers don't have to pay for people who are working full time, that would actually help the economy. Wages for higher paid workers might be suppressed, and salary increases might be lower for those not impacted by a higher minimum wage. If the minimum wage gets so high that it starts to approach what an average normal worker makes, then this might happen. Otherwise, it would not. So, increasing the minimum wage would not cause inflation. The amount of money to make it up to a livable wage would not be enough to do this. Extreme increases in wages, such as an increase to $100, might increase inflation. When people are not living in poverty, they have more money to spend. This boosts the economy and makes it healthier. People are more active and healthier when they are more participant citizens. So, this is merely a move where some money has to be sacrificed in order for people to have a livable wage. This is not the same as like universal basic income, where people are making like free like $30,000 a year for no work or something, or where we're just handing out welfare checks willy-nilly or whatever. This is an increase in wages for people to live. And honestly, when doing research, that I don't think it would hurt our economy. So anyways, it's Brendanz Dystopia. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Peace out.